San Diego, November 2001. The carrier John C. Stennis deploys on a half-year journey, 2 months earlier than planned. The men and women on board will spend the December holidays at war. This supercarrier arrives for battle in mid-December in the northern Arabian Sea. It relieves another carrier to join Operation Enduring Freedom. The first day on station, a somber reminder of why these sailors and airmen are here and why no one on this ship is complaining about the early deployment.
Oh, say, can you see?
This is no ordinary flag. It was found in the rubble of the World Trade Center.
One of the first things that we had the opportunity to do was make the wind just right so that we could go ahead and unfurl the flag and take the time to really reflect on the reason that we deployed early and what we're really all about for this deployment.
For many on board, including the battle group commander, Rear Admiral James Zortman, the flag was a direct link to events that already had a personal connection.
This is personal to me. My last assignment before I came here was in the Pentagon. 21 of those people that were killed in the attack on the Pentagon worked directly for me. I went to a lot of funerals, I went to a lot of memorial services.
And this aircraft carrier's armaments will play a key role in this phase of America's response to terrorism. On the flight deck of the John C. Stennis, Carrier Air Wing 9 is launching flight operations over Afghanistan.
I'm in command of the Air Wing, which would be the 73 or so airplanes that we have on board, and the 1,800 personnel that support those airplanes. And our job is basically put the flying team together and go out and execute the missions that we're assigned. We've got each squadron lined out here, and we take the assigned time and mission that they're going to be going over the beach, and we line it up, and then we assign airplanes to it.
And if you look closely at the aircraft going into battle, you'll see more reminders of exactly what brought them here.
The F-14s have, instead of pilots' names, they have policemen and firemen's names who were killed in the World Trade Center. You'll see some interesting emblems on the airplanes.
The leading F-18 fighter jet from Squadron 147 has the Twin Towers painted on one tail fin, the Pentagon on the other.
We all have our little stickers from the New York Police Department that we stick on the bombs and, deliver the justice in their defense. So, as well as our countrymen who work in the Pentagon. We all had someone we knew in the Pentagon. When
you go to do it, you know that you're doing something that the American people stand behind. And that makes a great difference.
This is the ready room for Squadron 147, known as the Argonauts. It's in these ready rooms that every mission begins and ends.
We could be, though, we call for tasking at any time, so we need to be prepared for any contingency when we're out there.
Commander Russ Knight leads a pre-flight briefing. He's a veteran pilot who's flown 50 different aircraft. He has 19 years in the Navy. His wingman is actually a wing woman, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Joyner.
I always tell them I'm the little sister they never wanted. They're a great group. If I don't hold my own, they're going to let me know. If I toe the line, then they're going to treat me like everybody else, and that's fair.
These pilots are also known by their call signs. He's Gladys, she's Clutch. They're getting ready for their first combat mission over Afghanistan.
It's just close to a turnaround.
But after this flight, both are heading to shore duty back in the States. This will be their last mission from the Stennis.
Well, I was SEAL commanding officer of the squadron, and now I'm heading back to another job back at home. And so this is my last flight here in the squadron.
For Gladys, this could also be the last carrier flight of his career.
The whole focus is getting a squadron ready to go into combat, and here we are, we're doing it. And now it's time for me to go, but I don't want to go, so definitely bittersweet.
Before every flight operation, there is the FOD walk. It stands for Foreign Object Damage. The crew walks the length of the flight deck looking for anything that isn't tied down. Even the smallest piece of debris, like a screw or a tiny scrap of metal, can be sucked into an engine. The consequence could be fatal to crewmen and damaging to aircraft. Once the deck is clear, the men and women of Air Wing 9 are ready to kick the tires and light the fires.
And what we're looking at here is an EA-6B aircraft.
Captain James McDonnell watches over launch and recovery operations from the bridge.
And of course, anybody that is commanding officer of an aircraft carrier is either a pilot or an NFO by trade, and been around it a lot, done a lot of carrier operations.
For this pilot, the thrill of the launch never goes away.
As you watch something like that, I mean, you've seen it thousands of times.
Oh, you still can't, it's still awesome.
With so little room on the flight deck and so much noise, an elaborate series of hand signals is needed to guide the aircraft around the deck and on to a safe launch. The people in the yellow shirts are the flight deck directors who move the planes.
I taxi him forward to the position I want him, all the way to the beginning of the catapult. I tell you to hold his brakes and then drop your launch bar.
As big as a carrier is, the runway is still too short for a plane to take off. The catapult system launches the plane off the bow of the ship and into the air. There are 4 catapults, or cats as crew members call them, on the John C. Stennis. Each cat is steam-driven with a long shaft underneath the deck. When released, the steam drives a piston down the shaft. Combine that with the full power thrust from the jet engines, and the aircraft goes from 0 to 150 miles per hour in approximately 2 seconds.
The troubleshooter tells them power, 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 check his positions, keep the nose down, not just look, tell them to go.
Soon, Gladys and Clutch will be moved onto the cat to leave the ship flying into harm's way. Night ops on the USS John C. Stennis. On this deployment, they primarily fly after dark, so the ship's schedule is upside down. The crew sleeps by day and works all night. This is day 2 of wartime operations for the Stennis in Operation Enduring Freedom. For the next 12 hours into the morning, planes from the carrier will fly missions over Afghanistan. There's only a faint orange light on deck, punctuated by this. To adjust their eyes for night vision, crew members make their way through passageways glowing in dim red light. On the flight deck, a walkover check for debris is lit only by flashlight. The dangers of the flight deck, being blown overboard by jets, sliced by propellers, or any of the other hazards that are hard enough to avoid in daylight, are all the more intense at night. The intricate coordination of launch and recovery plays out as a dance in the darkness.
The complexity of it all has been described as a ballet, and if it is a ballet, the choreographer of the flight deck is this man here. He is the handler.
TK Huffle, he's got problems there. Okay, I'm Lieutenant Fuentes, Frank Fuentes. I'm the aircraft handling officer on board Stennis here. And my job basically is to juggle all the balls up here on the flight deck. I work with the dog, which is the Air Wing's representative.
Come on, right off L4.
Going quick. He has a rep from each squadron on deck there calling in the request.
Jason, go ahead, turn the APU.
And then I holler at the yellow shirts and help out set up the deck so they get their maintenance, their fuel, the ordnance loads, whatever the case may be. Roger. What we have here is a Ouija board.
The Ouija board, as they call it, is a model of the flight deck. It shows the whereabouts of each of the Stennis' 73 aircraft. Amid all of the multi-million-dollar technology on the Stennis, something simple shows the status of each plane. Nuts and bolts.
It's our world's famous nutology here. All right, all carriers, all 12 carriers run some sort of system like this. Big Silver is first launch of the morning. He's earlier than the rest of the small Silver. 707's a second ago now. Quick switch of the nuts and we're in there. 310.
The nuts and bolts of the handler's job involve constant communication with the crew on the flight deck and the managers in charge. He can watch it all on TV monitors or from his window overlooking the deck.
It's a ballet. It's a controlled chaos, basically. I mean, once we start up all the engines there, it gets a little crazy, especially these are all machines here, and they don't always cooperate with these, so that's when it gets a little bit challenging.
Set 407, do the flip-flop, okay?
Can we just flip-flop them now?
Now, 30 seconds, we never may know here, Hammer.
707 and 704 swap.
Steady and unshaken even after an 18-hour day, the handler manages every aircraft until it hits the air. All in all, about 65 flights every day.
Once the aircraft leaves the deck, it's out of your hair then, is that right?
Exactly.
Single deliveries, you deliver, then I'll deliver.
Below deck.
Doc, if you're going to man in a spare, why don't you grab it and bring it up there, okay? Okay, Sarah.
It's the second pre-flight briefing of the night for Gladys and Clutch.
Did you fly into Afghanistan last night, or will this be? No, we were supposed to. We got canceled because some of the missions being cut back.
So this will be your first flight in Afghanistan?
Yes, it will be.
They've been given the go-ahead for a mission that begins at dawn. A couple of hours before the flight, they leave the ready room to suit up for the mission.
I have a routine I go through, you know, like the way I dress, and you know, you do things by memory more than anything else.
A pilot's flight suit is a complete survival system with oxygen mask, combat gear, and flotation devices.
This will automatically inflate when it hits the water. This is where you store all of your survival items: handheld GPS, handheld compass, signal mirror, spare batteries, most likely for the GPS.
The suit also inflates to keep the blood flowing to the brain when the gravitational force, or G's of flight maneuvers, press hard on the body.
As the G's increase, it'll inflate, and it keeps them from going unconscious.
How much does all of that weigh?
Probably about 45 pounds, I'm guessing. We've never actually weighed it, but I would say at least 45 pounds.
Do you feel it when you're in flight, or do you forget about it?
No, when you're flying. Like I said, you don't notice it, you know, you just put it on it. Something doesn't feel right, then you twist and move and make it fit. You gonna grab a power bar, Sarah?
I've got
I'll grab one. I'll grab one.
I've got all sorts of things in mind.
Grab a power bar, bring that with us.
What's your mission today?
Close air support.
In case our troops need help down on the ground, we'll be there to help them out.
So Commander Knight is too focused on his mission to reflect on the milestone he'll reach at the end of the mission, his 900th career landing.
Well, right now I'm not thinking about that. I'll think about that later on.
Sorry, what are you thinking about right now?
Should just get suited up. When I get back to war, you know, I'll think about the other things, you know. Nostalgia of it maybe, but right now I'm not. Yeah, it's not time to be nostalgic. Now's the time just to think about what I'm doing.
It very well could be the last time he flies and lands on a carrier. That's huge. I think the main thing you look at is if you were in his shoes right now, that's quite a moment. That's a great moment.
While missions continue above, it's dinner time in the mess decks. It's 7:30 in the morning.
First choice is steak ranchero.
Okay, we'll have one of those, please.
And chicken cordon bleu.
Food Service Officer Gordon Keith is the man who feeds the masses.
A couple thousand pounds of meat a meal. We go through probably about $20,000 worth of milk in a month.
That's more than 600 gallons of milk every day. Add to that 180 dozen eggs and 900 pounds of fresh fruit every day. Not to mention the thousands of beans in this gigantic vat of chili.
This is the tomato soup. We prepare about 400 to 600 portions.
You make soup for 400 or 600 people?
Yeah, because we're feeding thousands of people every day.
Cooking for this crew is a massive operation that hopes for quality in all of the quantity.
they can't use a lot of spices, so it's bland.
You know, they got to make for 5,000 people. So.
Is this the modern day equivalent of peeling potatoes?
I'd say so. Yeah. Nobody likes doing it, but it's got to get done. So.
As dawn breaks over the Arabian Sea, squadrons return from their night missions, landing on the carrier after some 6 hours in the air. First, the fighter jets, the F-14 Tomcats and the F-18 Hornets. The ordnance men, or ordies as they're called, disarm the weapons. None of the planes on this mission have dropped any bombs. Also on deck, this radar-jamming EA-6B Prowler. This, the S-3 Viking. Its primary mission in this theater to refuel other carrier-based planes. Last on deck, the search and rescue helicopter, the Seahawk. As the green shirt maintenance crews tend to these aircraft, pilots from other squadrons get ready for the next wave of launches. Planes are refueled, their weapons prepared. And Gladys and Clutch come above deck to prep their F-18s for launch.
Piece of cake. Winds are light, takes about an hour and a half to get up there.
Are you gonna try to tell me I'm in a different aircraft?
I'm not sure.
Gladys spots a mechanical problem and calls in maintenance.
Montoya, you have a T-handle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're good to go.
Wait.
If there's problems with a jet, they'll work on the jet to fix it. If they can't fix it, they'll give another jet. Everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows how to do it. And then magically, everything just keeps happening. It's not really magic. It's just constant training that we've done.
They'll climb up in them, and they'll go through starts. Typically about a half hour prior to the launch time. And once the starts begin, airplanes will be going through checks. Inside, the pilots are talking to one another, making sure all the ordnance and the weapons are working the way they're supposed to. They're programming the insides of the airplanes and computers to make sure they are set up for the missions that they have.
Plane Captain Horatio Sanchez guides Gladys's plane, giving it a final check before launch.
We're the first line of defense. If any discrepancies, I catch it. He may not go, he might go, depending on the discrepancy, on how big it is, how small it is.
While Gladys waits for the all clear, Clutch, in aircraft 407, moves toward the catapult. Gladys has another technical problem, putting his last flight in jeopardy. To stay on schedule, Clutch launches. Along with other aircraft in the strike group, while the green shirts work things out for Gladys. Finally, the problem is fixed. And Commander Knight launches from a carrier for the 900th time in his career on his first and last mission over Afghanistan.
Finally get to bring the justice that we all rightly deserve to bring to Afghanistan. We get to do it today.
Commander Russ Knight and his wingman, Sarah Joyner, continue their mission over the Tora Bora region of Afghanistan. The aircraft in Air Wing 9 are directed from this center, commanded by the CAG, or Commander of the Air Group.
This is CAG Ops, or Air Wing Ops, also referred to as Current Ops. This is where a lot of the execution is done, and the planning, future plans as well. are done out of this office. And you'll see down here at 9 o'clock this submission that Gladys and Clutch went out on to head up over the beach.
Most of the information about these flights is classified, but here's generally how missions over Afghanistan work. For the first 25 miles from the carrier, the aircraft will be in the airspace of the carrier's Air Traffic Control Center.
314, read back correct, break.
And what we do is we track them as they launch. We vector them away from the aircraft carrier. Outside of about 25 miles, we turn them over to Strike Control, which is the Combat Direction Center, where they'll continue to get checked out, processed out of our airspace, and on whatever mission they're going on.
This is CDC, Combat Direction Center. This is where essentially we fight the ship from. The TAO, Tactical Action Officer, he's basically the captain's representative, and he makes decisions on what the ship is going to do. On the other side of these monitors, we've got a section where our air intercept controllers sit. They're the guys that actually control our fighters.
During the 6-hour flight, an F-18 will need to refuel as many as 4 or 5 times. Air Force tankers from the U.S. and Britain patrol the skies over the theater of operations.
They'll get gas if they need it. They could need to go several hundred miles, get gas along the way, and then go into a target area.
If the mission calls for it, the fighters will drop their ordnance, the bombs that were armed before they left the carrier. Once they're within 25 miles of the ship again, the carrier's Air Traffic Control Center takes over again.
7301, Roger, Angels 11.
While missions are controlled from the upper decks, life on the carrier is just as active for more than 3,000 sailors who work below. Slice open the ship and you see the various levels from the top of the tower, known as the island, down to the flight deck and hangar bay, and deep down to the engine room. From top to bottom, the Stennis is more than 24 stories tall.
If you start at the top of the ship, we have a whole suite of sensors and arrays up there that take care of our communications, control. Right above me is the air boss. He's actually the traffic tower, if you will, for this airport that we have. Next deck down is right here, the bridge. And the bridge, of course, makes sure that the aircraft carrier is going in the right direction and in the right place.
Just beneath the flight deck is the hangar bay.
You can think of a hangar bay as a garage. That's our garage for doing maintenance.
Below and around the hangar bay are the mess areas where sailors eat and berthing areas where they sleep.
While at sea, these sailors have very little privacy or personal space in which to store things. This is a typical enlisted person's sleeping area, and this is about the extent of the privacy that they have. A curtain that they can pull to shut out the world. As for storage, each person has one stand-up locker, and then they have this, the area underneath their bed. In here, they have to store their uniforms, their clothing, all of their personal effects for a 6-month deployment. What is that like, this kind of living in close quarters?
Living conditions can definitely be difficult. It's one of the sacrifices that we're making. It's difficult to get alone time, and everybody needs their alone time.
Go deeper down in the ship and you reach other areas that keep this place humming.
We have a whole array of things from engineering auxiliaries to manufacturing.
At the bottom of the ship, the engine room and storage tanks for water and jet fuel.
So we've got a huge reservoir fuel. We've got a little over 3.5 million gallons of jet fuel on board to service these thirsty aircraft.
After missions that can last more than 6 hours in the air, the aircraft come home. The flight deck of the John C. Stennis is ready for recovery.
Aircraft returning to the carrier have to land on a runway that is brutally short. The entire landing area is only about 450 feet long for an aircraft that is traveling at approximately 150 miles per hour. Arresting gear on the deck make the landing possible.
Basically, it's a controlled crash.
That arresting gear is made up of 4 cables strung across the flight deck. A tailhook dangles from the rear of the aircraft. As the plane hits the deck, the tailhook snags the cable, bringing it to a dead stop in less than 3 seconds. The tailhook has been around since the earliest carrier landings. and the process of recovering aircraft has been refined and perfected over decades of trial and error. The pilot is guided to landing by the landing signal officer, or LSO. They also rate each trap, as these arrested landings are called. Any of the 4 cables will stop the plane, but ideally a pilot will trap the 3rd cable. The runway is simply too short to handle a landing without the wires, which is why pilots gun their engines to full power as soon as their wheels hit the deck. If they miss the wires, it's a touch and go, and they speed off to try again. This they call the bolter. The LSOs rate a landing by which wire a pilot traps, along with other criteria like how level the wings are on approach. The best a pilot can do, a grade of OK from the LSO. Lower marks work against their career average.
Most of the airplanes can latch up an automatic landing system that will land the airplane for you. Most of the pilots really don't like it. They trust themselves much more than they trust the equipment.
This is in broad daylight. It gets a little hairier at night and in bad weather.
Most of the pilots will probably tell you that if they've got to come land at night, that's as stressful, if not more, than actually dropping ordnance. Not to say that not good at landing, but that's the end of it. You're tired. You've got the leftover adrenaline rush.
The amount of tension in each one of the wires is controlled by the people in this room. This is one of the arresting gear engine rooms.
The cables are attached to huge hydraulic engines that slow the cable as it spools out 350 feet.
Okay, what happens is as soon as we get the weight of the aircraft, it's set. Our deck edge up topside will tell us at about a quarter mile out that the aircraft is in the groove. And then he'll say ramp, and that's when it gets right over the flight deck.
Ramp!
Commanders Gladys and Clutch are about to return from their first mission over Afghanistan. For Russ Gladys Knight, it will mark a major milestone in a naval aviator's career. It'll be his 900th carrier landing, and it could be the last of his career.
The motto of the Stennis is look ahead, but here in the forecastle there's also a link to the past. The 30-ton anchors at the end of this anchor chain actually came from another decommissioned U.S. Navy carrier, the USS Forrestal.
The worst disaster to strike a U.S. Navy ship since World War II turns the supercarrier Forrestal into a floating holocaust.
In July 1967, on the USS Forrestal, a rocket accidentally fired from a fighter jet struck another plane on board, knocking off a fuel tank and a 1,000-pound bomb.
The flames raced from plane to plane, fed by bombs, rockets, and bullets. The fire raged for 12 hours. Scores of sailors were trapped in crowded sleeping quarters beneath red-hot decks.
The incident led to several safety changes in the Navy, and it's a vivid reminder of how dangerous a carrier can be.
We have an at-sea fire party drill going here, and it's something we do every day. Keeps our primary responders sharp and in tune. There's only so far you can go on a ship, and you can't run away from the fire very easily. So our biggest concern is that smoke or whatever hazard is associated with the casualty would spread throughout the ship and start to kill sailors.
Headed on their way to the sea.
All throughout the ship we have petroleum products running throughout the piping that's going over our heads. We have electricity, high voltage electricity, hazardous material. In a given month of constant operations at sea and combat operations like we are right now, you're going to see 1 or 2 or maybe 3 actual casualties. It's just the nature of the business. Just like every Marine's a rifleman, every sailor's a firefighter.
And when there are casualties, the ship is ready. The sick bay has fully equipped operating rooms.
We can do any surgery imaginable. We even have complete laparoscopic. We've been out here a month and a half, and we've done, I think, 24 surgeries.
For the citizens of the floating city of Stennis, there are a few hometown amenities that keep life on an even keel. The library, where sailors can email home. The barber shop with 250 haircuts served daily. The post office chock full of holiday gifts from home. And with a crew of 5,000, the dirty clothes can pile up fast. Colossal washers and dryers are kept spinning 24 hours a day.
How much laundry is generated every night on the Stennis? We'll take a look inside this room. They do about 6,600 pounds of laundry every day on this ship, each one of these bags containing dirty clothes.
And to keep fit, there's a weight training room. And the hangar deck fills double duty as aerobic studio and boxing ring, keeping the crew in fighting shape.
All right, up on the bow, let's give them a proper flight deck attire, cranials, get your flow coats on, get them goggles down, let's get ready to recover some aircraft.
The handler prepares the flight deck for a new round of aircraft recovery. Pilots Gladys and Clutch are inbound.
And remember, aircraft 407, that's that wash job there. We're going to park it.
That true dog.
Hey, let Jason know 407's going up the throat.
Okay, go ahead.
Get their buckets and everything ready up there.
Thanks again,
Thank you. No.
Lieutenant Commander Sarah Joyner, known as Clutch, is about to experience a Navy tradition in honor of her last flight with the squadron.
Pilot out of 407, this is the last flight. So when she parks her aircraft, they're going to get her all wet.
Leading the squadron in, Commander Russ Knight, call sign Gladys, in the groove a quarter-mile out. He traps the wire for a remarkable 900th time in his Navy career. A few minutes later, Clutch brings aircraft 407 onto the deck.
Aboard John C. Stennis, good morning, this is the captain. Commander Knight, call sign Gladys, did his 900th trap and his last trap aboard John C. Stennis, at least for this trip over, in aircraft number 401. I know that you and Sarah Joyner conducted your last flights, and Godspeed to both of you. You've been awesome shipmates. They'd love to see it through this deployment. They know that they have other things in their professional and their personal lives. They've been relieved, but they won't be replaced.
Russ is a wonderful pilot and a wonderful human being, and it's almost impossible to overstate how significant his service is. He routinely touches several hundred lives a day.
They do not fire their weapons during a 6-hour-long mission.
That's sort of good news, because that means that we're getting to the point where we don't have to do that, so we can move on and take care of the rest of the things we need to do.
Afghanistan's quiet.
Every time you finish up with the squadron, they do what's called basically a wetting down. They throw water on you and haul you in, and if we were probably in the States, we'd pop some champagne or something and see you off, but we're on the boat, so.
How did that feel?
It felt actually really good. I had a little problem with the aircraft. It didn't have any cooling. So it was about 100 degrees. So of all the things that they could have done at that point, getting doused was pretty good.
The final flight in a squadron is always an emotional event. You just don't wake up one day and say, gee, I'm not going to be flying an F-18 off of a carrier deck. It'll take her a few days for that really to sink in.
It's been a mission worth doing. I'd say overall it's a good, noble thing. It makes you feel proud to be here.
It's a new war, and I think we're doing a good job of it. And it's all because of this whole team, the carrier and the air wing and the sailors and the Airedales and everybody working together to make things all come together.
There's one more item before they do a final debrief for the day, a rating on their traps from the landing signal officers.
4-1. Little drift right on settle in the middle. Little low flat on line up at the ramp. Okay, and a line 2 bar. 407. Little low start, a little too much power on the come on in the middle. Little high come down and close at the ramp for the OK 3 wire. Skipper. Nice job. Thanks, buddy.
Clutch. Nice. A little wet there?
A little wet. Just a little.
Very damp. Skipper, you're at 5.9. Clutch, you're at 6.0. Congratulations. Welcome back.
And with that, these pilots will call it a night. It's the middle of the day. Adrenaline is high on the flight deck of this carrier at war. Soon after dawn on this 4th day, confirmation of the ship's first strike.
4th day of combat operations today bore fruit for the air wing and the ship team here. We had F-14 aircraft drop laser-guided bombs and F-18s drop Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAM weapons, into eastern Afghanistan today. This is the first of an unknown number of strikes we'll conduct during our watch in Operation Enduring Freedom.
They'll come back high-fiving and feeling pretty good about it. But it is a bit of a somber event that they're going through out here, but the biggest thing you're seeing is the intensity.
The fighter jets dropped their ordnance in a coordinated attack on a convoy near the Afghan city of Khost. The Pentagon says the convoy was Taliban and al-Qaeda troops.
There was an attack on a convoy of leadership that was identified through various intelligence means, and that was done within the last 24 hours.
But the strikes proved controversial. Local Afghans in the convoy say it was a group of elders on their way to the inaugural ceremony for interim Afghan leader Hamid Karzai. Analysts now believe some tribal warlords may have taken advantage of American firepower by accusing rival leaders of being Taliban and misguiding U.S. intelligence.
You know, the consequence of injuring or hurting somebody who's either friendly or a non-participant in combat is very difficult to deal with. And we go to extreme details and do a lot of training as well to make sure that that doesn't happen.
We have dropped ordnance today, and I'm sure we'll continue to drop ordnance and do it with precision, do it with accuracy, and do it on call when needed, first time, every time.
As the John C. Stennis nears the end of its first week of operations in the Arabian Sea, Christmas is only a few days away. Though a choir rehearses in the chapel for a Christmas event, for the crew, it's just another work day. Their first day off won't be for another 3 weeks.
It's another day for me. When I'm out here, I don't look at a calendar, I don't think about it. I stay busy at work.
Partition mates A class, William Smith.
But there are other chances for the ship to gather, like this moment of pride to honor sailors who've earned a promotion in rank. It's called a frocking ceremony.
The sense of respect and human dignity, I think that you'll agree as you walk around this crew, is there. Because if they take care of one another, the whole community comes together. They fall together as a team, or they win together as a team. And I always encourage them to take care of themselves. Because if they don't take care of themselves, then it kind of all falls apart at the seams.
The last time we saw this sailor, he was washing dishes in the galley. Now he's been promoted. And pilots Sarah Clutch Joyner and Russ Gladys Knight say their final goodbyes.
Everybody calm us down, let's go.
before boarding the cargo flight off the USS Stennis. They'll be home in time for Christmas.
Well, I've been here for 4.5 years, and it's probably time to go, but I'm going to miss them. They're pretty much my family right now, with my family away from my family.
Savoring flight, only seconds before the door closes.
This is the best tour of my life. 19 years in the Navy, it's been the best tour of my life.
For the rest of the crew, there's 5 more months to go in this deployment. And no one knows how long America's new war on terrorism will keep the USS John C. Stennis engaged in battle, on highest alert as a carrier at war.
If we continue with the pride and the professionalism we've shown to date, we can't do anything but be successful. Please make sure you take care of your ship, take care of yourselves, and take care of your shipmates.